Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's just review quickly and answer maybe some questions that you had for week one. Okay, again, my website's up there. Okay, I could copy it down below, but you know where it is. And it does have some information on the bones, of course. Now, to answer the question, when the lecture test gets here, this is stuff for the lecture test right here. Okay, when the lab test gets here Thursday, that's going to be on it. 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 That'll be on it. That'll be on it. That'll be on it. And today will be on it. Okay. It's pretty easy to distinguish the lecture from the lab this way. Okay. Week two assignment. I can just tell you about it without opening this up. Week two assignment is to read either chapter 2 or 6, whichever one you elected not to read last week. If you did read both of them last week, then you don't have a further assignment. Discussion. In order to be of any value, this needs to be done fairly soon. This is to design a question that would be suitable for the practical examination. You can do it all in text, but you can also cut and paste a bone or a diagram from anywhere on the internet. I don't consider that plagiarism or anything like that. In fact, any educational material can be copied off of the internet once per person. Okay, so Allison, I won't go through all these. It just happened to be first. Which suture is found between the parietal bones of the skull? What do you think?
Sagittal.
The sagittal suture is correct. Right, that's the one. I asked that the question be constructed, but the answer not be given. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I've only got about 8, 9, or 10 at the most. I'd like a question from the rest of you, please. Okay. It won't take long. It won't take long, especially if you do it this way, just text basing it. That's a good question, though. That first one, it makes you think. It makes you think. Okay, here's a practice quiz. I put it up last night. I want you to take it after today's class, not during today's class. It's going to be text-based too. When they're text-based like this, instead of image-based, you know they're lecture tests. Our lecture today is supposed to be on cellular processes, and then we'll go into the lab. Cellular processes is not very complicated, but let's give it a shot. Okay, a process is easy to define. It's just a sequence of events that leads to a conclusion. And it can be a chemical process, it can be a gaseous process, it can be a literary process. Okay, all matches. But when we're talking about cells, we have two types of basic processes: active processes and passive processes. Active processes require the organism or the cell to expend energy in order to make the process proceed. Passive processes, on the other hand, do not require excess energy. The energy is already there. There has to be energy. We know that. There has to be energy to make anything work, but it doesn't have to have extra energy for a passive process. There are 4 passive processes that we need to know. And at first, the first one anyway, is going to sound like grade school. Okay. Passive processes, these do not require work by the cell. So we're doing the passive process first, and everybody's heard of the term diffusion. Can you give me another word for diffusion? One word.
Osmosis?
No, thank you.
Separation.
Separation, that's better. Yeah. I was thinking of dispersion, okay? But that's separation, okay? And you'll see in a moment why osmosis won't fit. Okay? Everybody's familiar with diffusion in real life. We see things diffuse all the time, whether it's a vapor, smell of a flower, or anything like that. We can also think of diffusion as movement of salts and ions from higher to lower concentrations. We can also refer to the movement of water from higher to lower concentrations. Diffusion always moves from an area where a scent or an accumulation of salts or ions or something like that is highest to where it is lower. You may not ever reach the lowest part, but from high to low, that's diffusion. If we think of a fish tank, I think of a rectangular fish tank. Take some food coloring. I like to think of blue, but put it in an eyedropper and just gently drop it in the upper corner of the fish tank. It'll begin to diffuse immediately. How long will it take to diffuse across a fish tank that measures 2 feet across, 2 feet in front of you? Will it take a minute, 5 minutes to get across, or longer?
Maybe a minute.
It may actually take days. It may actually take days. Diffusion continues until equilibrium is reached. Equilibrium is reached when the amount of the solute, that's the thing that is moving, is equal everywhere. And it can take quite some time. This rather simplistic diagram shows simple diffusion. Here's the drop of dye going in here, spreading out, or if the word was separating, I understand, until it's equally dispersed and has reached equilibrium. Movement from an area of higher to lower concentration until equilibrium is reached. Osmosis, okay, it's a separate one. Osmosis is a special type of diffusion, and it's very important for any form of life. It's a diffusion through a semi-permeable membrane, with some things being allowed to cross that membrane and other things being prohibited from crossing. I think when I first learned diffusion, I had no trouble. Well, I'm talking about 8th grade again. And then the word osmosis came up, and half the class wanted to bail. And in high school and even in college, you say the word osmosis, and people want out of there. Okay. Osmosis is the same as diffusion. It goes from a high area of concentration to a lower area of concentration, but it does so by crossing a membrane. And that membrane is said to be semi-permeable. Semi-permeable means some things get through, other things are excluded, cannot get through. The cell membrane is the ideal semi-permeable membrane. Once some things get into the cell, they can't get back out. Some things can, but some things cannot. Amino acids generally enter the cells freely, but once inside, they can be used for the production of larger proteins, enzymes, and DNA. And once they get large, you've built a ship in the bottle, and they can't get back out again. We have three situations here using red blood cells. And I'm going to start with the one in the center, which is called isotonic. The membrane to be crossed is the red blood cell membrane. Okay. If the concentration of salt in the saline solution of the blood is the same concentration as inside the red blood cell, then there's no cause for movement of the salt. Also, along with the salt, which is the solute, we have it embedded in the solvent, which is water. And that means the concentration of water outside of the red blood cells is the same as the concentration of water inside. If we have equal concentrations of salt, we have equal concentrations of water. Nothing moves. Oh, things can go in, things can go out, but they'll do so equally. Some salts will come in, others will leave. Water can come in, but water will leave. There's not going to be any change. This is isotonic. The word tonic refers to strength. And down here, they're showing a little diagram. Water in, water out. Okay. It's become fashionable in anatomy books and science books to refer to the movement of water. Well, water does move, and it moves rapidly, rather than to the movement of the solutes, which also move, but not quite so fast. When they first put this together, they used the word tonic, referring to the tonicity or strength of the solute. But now we always refer to the water. It's not complicated. Okay? You'll see in a second, really no difference. So let's put our red blood cells in a hypertonic solution. Hypertonic means a high amount of solute, high strength of solute. Okay, so the solute or salt in the saline solution is risen on the outside. Normally in a human body, that doesn't happen rapidly. It can happen slowly, but it won't happen suddenly. If the salt concentration is higher on the outside, it will want to go inside. It will want to go inside through osmosis. However, before that can happen, the water, which moves so rapidly, will move out to dilute the solute, to bring it back to isotonic. But in doing so, the water leaves, it deflates the red blood cells. This deflation, if I can call it that, is called crenation. Crenation. This is a situation where the red blood cells would no longer be able to function. The third is the hypotonic solution. under strength. The solute is less strong. So out in the plasma, we actually have more water than solute. The solute concentration is reduced. There'll be an attempt of the solute that's inside the red blood cells by osmosis to come out. But before it can do that and equalize, the water on the outside will rush in. Water, nothing stops water. Nothing stops water from crossing a membrane. The solutes take their time. But before that happens, the water rushes in, bloats the red blood cells, and pops many of them, like this one. When the red blood cells are broken by this influx of water, because they can't expand anymore, that's called hemolysis. Hemolysis. Crenation, isotonicity, and hemolysis. This hypertonic solution, backing up, you know where they use it right now? A lot in cosmetic surgery. Well, it's in treatment of varicose veins. Varicose veins have accumulation of blood, the valves stretch, and the varicose veins often look purple or black even. Behind the knee is a common place for them, but they can occur anywhere. And what they do is they inject salt water into these veins. The salt water increases the hypertonicity, causes the collapse of the red blood cells, and the death of the vein. You can't do this to all the veins at once. Your circulatory system would not function very well. Okay? But if you've seen it on a film or a video, it's almost like a miracle. They shoot it into a purple vein, and that vein disappears. Usually takes more than one session. Okay, so here's a description of isotonic, which I've already given you. Hypotonic, leading to hemolysis, and hypertonic, leading to crenation or shrinking. Facilitated diffusion, sometimes called passive transport. Passive because it doesn't require any energy. Facilitated diffusion is diffusion of the solid from higher to lower concentration. It's always that way with diffusion, but at a faster rate than would normally be expected. There's something helping out. Usually in the membrane, pictured below, you have what's called a protein channel or a carrier channel, non-proteinaceous, and it moves things across faster without the expense of energy. It's like a slip and slide. You run towards it, you fall on it, you speed up. If you think of an airplane, I don't know, it's been a year and a half since I've been on an airplane. I love to fly. I love to fly. But I can certainly remember the cramped cabins and then everybody getting out and diffusing or osmosing through the membrane, being the fuselage, getting out and spreading out, and then spreading out into the terminal even more. The tendency is to spread out. Well, that unfortunately comes to a standstill when you get to passport control, or you get to the baggage claim. But until then, you're spreading out. And if you spread out and find the speed ramp, you're going to move fast. And that's facilitated diffusion. You're not putting out any more energy. In fact, you're probably putting out less because you stand most of the time on the speed ramp. The fourth and simplest to understand of the passive processes is dialysis. This is the separation of molecules by size. This has got to be the most primitive form of uh, of a passive process. We'll put off discussion of this until we get to the kidney, where it's greatly used. But it's the passive separation of molecules by size. You're not old enough to remember old vending machines, I'll bet, where you put in a whole bunch of coins. And you always wonder, how does it know if I put in a quarter or nickel or dime? By its size, by its size. Okay, active processes, these require the expenditure of the organism or cell doing the work. Work is necessary. Microcalories are going to have to be used. Active transport is the first one. Okay. We have to realize that you and I are not at equilibrium with our environment. Okay. We'd like to think so, but then we'd also be dead. So we're not at equilibrium with our environment. We accumulate material from the environment. Within you, there is more calcium in your bones than in the area or volume of space right around you. You would have to be in a chalk mine to have more calcium, but you're not. I see where you are. Okay. What about iron? There's more iron in you, in your hemoglobin, than there is in the area around you. So you must be accumulating this against a concentration gradient. We say that this is motion from an area of lower concentration to an area of higher concentration. They say that the universe, and they change their mind every week, it seems, but they say the universe is running out of energy. Okay, where's it going? Well, if it runs downhill far enough, it becomes heat. Heat is the lowest form of energy. Well, if all of the universe, and there's a heck of a lot of it, is running out of uh, is running downhill and running out of energy, what about you? You're like a speed bump, slowing things down. You're accumulating all of your environment, all the molecules that you need in greater amounts than they are present in the normal environment. Okay. Without that, without active transport, we couldn't have life. Of course, we're not breaking the law of thermodynamics here. You will, when your time comes, give this material back up, and it will continue down the road to becoming heat. In active transport, I need to use this little diagram. Here's a cell membrane. This is a carrier molecule. Carrier molecules have always been found to be proteins. Inside the cell, we have already accumulated quite a few of these dots. I don't even want to guess at their color. Outside, there's a few, and normal diffusion or osmosis would say the dots go out. But that can't happen because the carrier protein expends energy, ATP, to bring them in and keep them in. If this were a prison yard, we would have more prisoners inside than waiting at the gate to get in. But if they get close enough to the gate, being brought by a marshal or something, they'll be pulled in and added to the population inside. If we think that every prisoner's responsibility or duty or wish is to escape, then they'll find a spot and leave, but there'll be another protein, carrier protein, and get pulled right back in again. Nice try. Pulled back in again. Some actually will escape, but more will be brought in than are allowed to escape. So we have an accumulation of material inside to build with, to build DNA, chromosomes, and anything else we need. Finally, the second active process is the easiest for you. It's cytosis. We've already mentioned this type of active process. Remember phagocytosis, cell eating, and pinocytosis, cell drinking. Okay. Any questions? Well, we're a little ahead today. Not much. It's 1:52. I'm going to give you the break now because it just makes sense. So take till uh, five after. Okay. Okay. Okay, has anybody got a question you thought of? I know I sound like a broken record, but it's the most important thing I can ask you. Let me hear one of you say something.
Hello.
Okay, that's good. I couldn't tell if you're all on mute, fine, but I just needed to know that I'm going to be able to hear you. Do you take advice from people? Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, but you got to decide what it is. Something came up recently that I'm not going to go into, but it has nothing to do with me either. When you get into your field, whatever it's going to be, even if it's not a medical field or health field, but I'm assuming for most of you it is your intention. Do yourself a favor. This should go without saying. When you're on the job, do not speak of your health and do not speak of money. Leave those alone. People listening in all the time, making stuff out of it when they want to get bumped up before you do or something like that. I saw it happen just recently. I've seen it before. And it's so stupid. You don't talk about money and you don't talk about your health. Okay, talk about the patient's health or somebody else's. And if you think I'm wrong about that, one day, I hope it doesn't happen to you. You'll find out. Okay. If somebody does something and to you, you don't like it, do you sit still for it? Yeah, I guess
Most of the time.
most of the time.
I don't have much of a backbone.
I don't believe that. You wouldn't have answered the question at all. Okay. No. Uh, the best way with that little piece of advice I just gave you, and it means nothing today, but someday it might. Don't get into that situation. Don't get yourself into that situation. Okay. And but I've had people get on my case. Nothing to do professionally. Uh, uh, but I don't believe in just sitting still myself. I have to get back. I not only have to get back, get even. I have to get ahead. I was once, and then we'll get going again. Once I was living in Majestic Canyon. I don't know if you know where that is. It was quite rural at the time when I was there, and very dark, lots of trees, stream, and it's right here, it's 20 odd miles away. Nowadays, unfortunately, it's riddled with yuppies and yuppie castles, I call them. But in those days, it was wonderful, and it was dark. It was 8 miles from El Toro, and it's probably 1 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up and I wanted to go and drive. Now, why would I want to go and drive in the dark at 1 o'clock in the morning? And the reason was I had just bought a new car that day, a new truck, and I wanted to drive my truck. It didn't matter what time of day it was. So I got in my truck and I went around the hills, and I was going towards El Toro. Had to have some destination in mind, so I was going to the Alpha Beta store. There was Alpha Beta in those days. And 4 miles down the road, tree-lined road, 2-lane road, tiny road, there's a bend. There's a bend. And there's a place where there's the only light on the entire road. Well, there were no other cars, and I could see until I got to that bend. And there was one car propped up on a rock. One wheel was lifted up onto a rock. I've lifted a corner of a car once, but it was a small car. 2 people could do this. I looked at it, it looked like a junker car. Oh, yes, I'm opinionated, as most of you are, but not all. I saw this junker car and I said, that car's got to be from Arizona. Okay. I had a thing in those days about people from Arizona. They were either dressed in polyester, in my mind, or they were psychotic. And that's because of the movie that I saw, California Spelled with a K, with Brad Pitt, ages and ages ago. Some psychos from Arizona. Whoa. Well, I got up close to the car as I'm driving, and my headlights shined right on its license plate, and it said Grand Canyon State. Well, damn it all, that's Arizona. I knew it. I knew it was an Arizona car. And I turned the corner, that one bend, and here were 2 psychopaths. I mean, they would scare the hell out of anybody. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, you're the only one on the road. Oh my God. They were thumbing a ride, and they had a flat tire, and they wanted to ride into town, obviously. Would you have stopped? No, Michael wouldn't stop. He's got no backbone.
Absolutely not.
No way.
Maybe they can ride in the bed of the truck, but not inside.
Yeah, maybe they could do that. Maybe they could beat the hell out of me, take my truck, and leave me the tire. I don't know. I was going back and forth in my mind, and I was going to pussyfooting between the brake and the accelerator, and thinking, "Oh, come on, give them a ride, take a chance, live a little, die a little." Didn't know what to do, and finally, I decided I was going to stop, and I started to stop. I was braking, but I had already passed the point of no return. They thought I wasn't going to stop, and they, in their hands, which were, hitchhiker hands, fists, they had rocks, and they flung the rocks at my truck as I went by. I kept going by. Oh, I was ticked off, wouldn't you be? Should I have gotten
Yeah.
out, give them what for?
I mean, I
No,
understand the rage, but I don't think it's worth it.
I understand the rage too, and I didn't think it was worth it either.
I
But
don't want to be hit by rocks.
no, I don't mind. I've been rock fights as a kid were nothing. But I'm telling you, these guys were bearded weirdos. Okay, I don't mind beards, but not on these guys. So I drove on, and I felt like such a coward. I felt like I couldn't defend my own property. And then I started thinking, well, I still got my property. Maybe I did defend it. Okay, let's get out and see what damage they did. When I got to the Alpha Beta store, I couldn't even find a dent. A good paint job, I guess. Okay, so fine. I didn't go in the store. I didn't want anything at the store. So after a while, I left and turned back from El Toro and was going home. And there across the street, there were the two guys rolling a flat deflated tire. Hard to do. They have another mile to go to get down to the AM PM store at the freeway, and I guess get that thing fixed. I figured that some guy with an old pickup truck gave them a ride, and it wasn't worth their exchanging anything. They saw me pull out, and gave me the one finger salute, and I did the same, but it didn't feel like I accomplished anything. I'm sort of just fuming. I don't live my life this way. I have to get back. I have to get even. I have to get ahead. And I drove, and 4 miles back on this old country road, as I said, here's the turn. Here's their car. I pulled up, and I let the air out of all the rest of the tires, and took off. I felt good.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Very inspired.
Okay, now, do you have any questions?
Regarding the story.
Oh, I don't care about that. I have another one later. I try to work it in somewhere or other so that you realize that justice and me go hand in hand. So if your test is misgraded or anything like that, I will set it straight. Okay, I cannot stand misjustice, and you shouldn't either. If there's anything you can do about it, okay. I don't care what country you live in, whether it's the United States or some other country. There's a lot of people feel that there's misjustice, and I would have to agree. Any country in the world, as long as there's people, there's going to be misjustice. Am I worried about saying that? Oh, somebody would say I need to resign from office. No, I'm not worried. I've been around too long. Okay, Mike, last chance. Is it Mike or Michael?
Oh, I go by either way.
Okay. No, sit up straight. Okay. Anybody else? Then we'll go on. I'm not going to hit end. That's stupid. Share screen. You can see the red blood cells again.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. Week 2. Here we are under lab. Okay, so I think I made it clear. For the lab, everything that says lab is going to be on the test. And for the lecture, everything that says lecture is going to be on the test. Okay. The only time we overlap is at the very end of the course. And I have you studying for everything at the same time, and it works best that way. Okay, I don't know if you got these for yourself. If you didn't, you can copy them at home at any time. We're going to be using figures 7-8, 7-9, and 7-10. 7, 8, 9, and 10 in your book. Okay. So that's not really a page full of material. It does have the names of all the structures, though, that you're responsible for. Okay. This thing want to be in the way all the time. Okay, we're looking at, yes.
Before we go there, oh, never mind. I found what I was looking for.
Okay.
Sorry, thanks.
Okay. Bones and structures of the lower appendicular skeleton. Remember, there are 126 bones in the appendicular skeleton. There are 80 bones in the axial skeleton and 206 altogether. I don't count sheep to go to sleep. I usually have a couple of dreams that will always put me to sleep. So I start to daydream and I'm gone. But if I can't get to sleep, I count the axial bones. I tried to name all 80 and I count them on my fingers at the same time. And always you skip one or two. And that's means you got to start over. You start over about 2 times and then you'll be asleep. Okay. But if you wanted another trick, there it is. Okay. Let's see. The bone here, okay, is the coxal bone. That's not going to be the answer on the test for anything. It refers to the fusion of 3 bones. The ilium. If you put your hands up on your hip, the top of your hip, that's the top of your ilium. Okay. And then we have the ischium. I'm assuming you're seated right now, and you're sitting right on these ischial tuberosities of the ischium. And in the front is the pubic bone. Go to the top of the ilium, and that's where you would put your hands if you were hands on your hip. This is the iliac crest. We've got to get a good picture in our minds here of the orientation. This is where the leg is going to go in. This must be the lateral side. You're seated on the ischial tuberosity. This must be the posterior. And this pubic bone must be the anterior. Okay. So this is a posterior view. It happens to be of a right bone because the head of the femur is going to go into here. Follow my pointer from the top of the iliac crest. And now I'm going laterally until I reach this point. This is the anterior superior iliac spine, probably the longest name. Drop down 1.5 inches, and this is the inferior iliac spine. You've got 2 on this bone, and you've got another coxal bone. Again, coxal is not the answer to anything. You've got 2 of these anterior spines on the other side. You've all seen somebody in a swimsuit at the beach or someplace. And some people are thin enough, they've got the 2 bumps on either side, one above the other. That's these 2, the anterior superior and anterior inferior iliac spines. Follow back across the iliac crest until you come to this point. This dips backwards to your back and will articulate with the sacrum. But this point here is the posterior superior iliac spine, and 1.5 inches to 2 below it is the posterior inferior iliac spine. So there's 4 that.
Charlie,
Yes.
do those have anything to do with the spine? I know they're called spine, but do they have anything to actually do with?
No, they don't.
Thank you.
No. There's another spine coming up. If you look down the page here, they're like cactus spines. They just something that sticks out. If you're with me at the posterior inferior iliac spine, there's now a big gouge going in and out. This is the greater sciatic notch. The sciatic nerve runs from your lumbar vertebra all the way down to your knee. Greater sciatic notch. When you emerge at the bottom of it, this is the ischial spine. Okay, here's another spine that has nothing whatsoever to do with the spinal cord. Ischial spine. Now, since it's the ischial spine, we somewhere along here have moved from the ilium to the ischium, and it's not marked for us here. Your book has a drawing that is colored and it is marked. And you'll see that all three bones, the ilium, ischium, and the pubic bone, come together in this cup-like structure. Over to the ischial spine. This one juts partway across the pelvic brim, the area of the pelvis that you could put your fist into in a skeleton, and you'll see it in just a second. It's very important not to have this be too large, or childbirth can be hampered. If it is too large these days, a C-section would probably be offered and probably be accepted. I can't answer that for anybody, of course. Right underneath the ischial spine, a small indentation. Do you ever notice how the anatomists have to give a name to everything? I don't need a name for this, but it's a lesser sciatic notch. Greater sciatic, lesser sciatic. Can move over and we'll be in the ischium itself. And this part that you're sitting on is the ischial tuberosity. It goes around, and in an unidentified spot here, we'll see it later, the pubis bone starts, but it goes around this large opening. This hole is the obturator foramen, named after the obturator muscle that goes through it, but the obturator nerve that goes through it, and the blood vessels go up, and now we have that cup-like depression. That's where the head of the femur is going to fit in. This is the acetabulum. Acetabulum. And then we've made full circuit. We'll see most of these a little bit further on. Okay, I think there's a update needed for this male versus female. Okay. Most people would look at it and say, oh, well, the female's got to be the one on the right because the hips are so wide. That's not always the case. Okay. And it's not always the case that the male hips are so narrow. But what they've done here is just gone with the stereotype, I'm afraid. Here is the ilium, the bone, and there is a cavity here, 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 here. That's the iliac fossa, very smooth. The pelvic brim, follow my needle, all the way around here. What bones are we passing? We're passing part of the ischium, we're part passing up here, part of the ilium. We're passing here the sacrum and the sacral promontory, and then the same things on the other side. The male pubic brim is roughly round, whereas the female, it's larger and it's usually more oval. I use the word usually, and then that means, oh, I can get away with saying either one. No, you can't. The female down here, the pubic arch, underneath the two pubic bones, which I'm pointing to, is greater than 100 degrees. I have never seen the male pubic arch 90 degrees. I've seen it or less, closer to 45 degrees. This is definitely side by side when you're looking at them. This is the male. And this wide arch here is the female. Well, here's the bone that fits into the acetabulum. Head, neck, and if we want to switch to anatomical view, let's go over here. Head, neck, and then greater tubercle. No, that's not right. Greater trochanter. In the humerus, do you recall that? Head, neck, greater tubercle. In the femur, it's head, neck, greater trochanter. We have tubercle, we have tuberosity, and we have trochanter, each getting larger in that order. Tubercle, smallest, tuberosity on the radius, next larger, and then the greater trochanter. On the medial side, we have the lesser trochanter. Let's flip it around to the posterior. Okay, we see the same, but we see that the greater trochanter and lesser trochanter form a moon shape. This is called the intertrochanteric crest. Up at the top of the head, there is a depression. It shows over here. And here. Doesn't go in very far, but it allows for some expansion of the synovial pouch. This is a synovial joint. This hole is the fovea capitis, which translated means hole in the head. On the posterior side of the diaphysis or shaft, you have this raised area for the attachment of the hamstring muscles. This is the linea aspera, not present on the front. Let's go back to anatomical view, this one, and come down the diaphysis on the front. And here we find a smooth area where the upper half of the patella or kneecap will articulate. This is the patellar surface. On the other side, underneath the linea aspera, there's an indentation at the bottom. This is the intercondylar fossa. If you remember on the humerus, we had one of these. It was the olecranon or olecranon fossa. Intercondylar. Intercondylar meaning between condyles. This is a condyle. This is a condyle. Over here, this is a condyle, and this is a condyle. In the humerus, we had epicondyles, and the epicondyle was a projection further out, sitting on top of the condyle. The epicondyles here are minuscule, so we refer to the very noticeable condyles. This is a condyle. This is a condyle. This is the lateral condyle. How do we know it's the lateral condyle? Because it's away from the point of attachment of the femur. This is the medial condyle.
Charlie,
Yes?
if you were looking at this without it being labeled at all, how can you tell the difference between a femur and the humerus? What would you look for?
Oh, it really wouldn't be difficult at all. The trochanters are huge here, okay, and you don't have them, you have them placed differently as greater and lesser tubercle on the humerus. I would look at that. But at the distal end, I'm looking for that little pond-shaped structure composed of the capitulum and the trochlea. You don't have that here. You
Thank
just
you.
don't have that here. The other thing, their size. If you have them side by side, the femur is going to be much bigger. It's the largest, heaviest, longest bone in the body. Okay, looking at this diagram, it's sort of a repeat, which sometimes is good. Okay, it's trying to show how the femur sits on top of the tibia and the fibula. Here's the head, here's the head, here's the neck, greater trochanter, lesser trochanter. It's not on your sheet, so we're not doing it. We're not doing gluteal tuberosity. Down at the bottom end, one end is a condyle, the other end is a condyle. The lateral condyle is away from the hip joint. And here's the patellar surface. The medial condyle is on the side of the head. Lateral condyle over here again. And here's that intercondylar fossa. Intertrochanteric crest up here. Lesser trochanter here. And greater trochanter. On the other side, we've got two spots. One where the pointer is, and here where the pointer is. These are the lateral and medial condyles. They will match up with the lateral and medial condyle of the femur, sitting right on top of them. Okay. At the top here, you have what I call little saddleback. Okay. This is the intercondylar eminence. Intercondylar eminence. It looks like Majestic Peak and Santiago Peak. I'm sure you've all had a chance to see them. Otherwise, two little bumps. Drop down the front of the tibia, about 1.5 inches to here, and this is the tibial tuberosity. You can feel your own. If you have a lot of connective tissue around it, it may bother some people. And some others will use an impolite term, knobby knees, but that's just the amount of connective tissue. Tibial tuberosity. Here's the fibula. The fibula is always lateral. The radius is always lateral. The thumb is always lateral. You got to remember those. They really do help you get your orientation. The fibula is always lateral. The head is the uppermost part.
Charlie, you said the fibula. What else is always lateral? The thumb, and there was one other.
The radius.
Radius. Thank you.
The fibula comes down, and you have the lateral malleolus. The lateral malleolus is your ankle on the lateral side. When you get a new pair of shoes, depending upon what style they are, of course, it can rub against the lateral malleolus, and you end up getting a Band-Aid or something and wishing you hadn't gotten the shoes, but they finally break in. On the other side of the tibia, come down, and on the medial side, remember, fibula is lateral, then the tibia is medial. This is the medial malleolus, and that's your inside ankle. It used to be popular to go bowling many, many years ago. And then I think it died out. And then I think it revived a little bit. But I remember my father took me bowling. I love bowling, but not with my father. He had had some beers or something, and he was bowling. He can't even have one beer. Pop it open, and he's drunk. He just mentally. So he got a hold of the bowling ball in front of some friends of his and me, and he's going up to the lane. Let's go with the bowling ball, and he hits his own ankle. He hits his own ankle. I was so happy. Well, he had it going, but what your own ankle would be is the medial malleolus on the inside. Now, if I didn't have the fibula here, and proximal tibiofibular joint is not on the list, it's not going to be asked. If it's not on those lists that give you the figure locations, it's not going to be asked. Okay, but if I only gave you the tibia, I'm sorry, yeah, tibia, and you didn't have the fibula shouting at you, I'm lateral, how would you know which is the lateral side and which is the medial side of the tibia? You come down to the bottom, not the top. Come down to the bottom, find this little piece that juts out. That's the medial malleolus. If that's the medial malleolus, this is the medial condyle. This is the lateral condyle. Okay, the knee, well, this is just an introduction to the knee. The kneecap itself is the patella. All you have to tell me about the patella is its name. You don't have to know the lateral aspect or medial aspect if you ever even come across it. This is the patella. You do need to know the apex, I'm sorry. The apex, the point. Our femur up here. This is this on the femur, the lateral or medial condyle?
Lateral,
How did you know that?
because the fibula is on the lateral side.
Because the fibula is on the lateral side, always. So that's lateral condyle, medial condyle, on the tibia, medial condyle, and lateral condyle. Okay, now the foot. After the hand, the foot should be a piece of cake. And can't imagine you having much trouble with it. Let's do it together. Let's start with the toes. And those are the phalanges of the toes. Okay, the big toe has two phalanges. This one that I'm on right now is the proximal phalanx. And the one that has the nail on it is the distal phalanx, exactly as it was in the hand. And then for digit number 2, 3, 4, and 5, you have a proximal phalanx, middle phalanx, and distal phalanx, exactly as it was on the hand. So that should take care of 14 bones there quickly, and 14 on the other side. And with the other phalanges of the hand, a total of 56. That's almost half of the appendicular skeleton. If somebody steps on your toes, what it means is they stepped on these phalanges. If somebody steps on your foot, it means they got higher up and stepped here. This is metatarsal 1, not labeled here. Metatarsal 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to do the same thing with these as we did with the hand. Find metatarsal 1, come back and find the one bone it articulates with. That bone is cuneiform 1. Now, the legend says first cuneiform, that's fine, but my answer sheet on the test will say cuneiform 1. It's also known as the medial cuneiform because it's closest to the midline, which is right here. But I want you to learn it as cuneiform 1. Move over a bone. It articulates with metatarsal 2. This is cuneiform 2. And this is cuneiform 3. If you learn them 1, 2, 3, you can't go wrong. But if you don't, and you'll have to go medial for this one, intermediate for this one, and lateral for this one, and yet it's not the most lateral bone because there's another one coming. I think you're asking for trouble. And I'll let you do that, but I'm going to have it on the exam. Uniform 1, 2, 3. Now, metatarsals 4 and 5 do just exactly what the metacarpals 4 and 5 do. Articulate with one bone. That was the hamate in the hand. This is the cuboid bone. So cuneiform 1, 2, 3, and cuboid. Come straight back from the cuboid, and you have the calcaneus bone. This one down here. The calcaneus is also politely called your heel bone. It's the largest of the tarsals. The 5 metatarsals were up here. And then when we started down below that with the cuneiforms, we started 7 tarsals. Cuneiform 1, 2, 3, cuboid, calcaneus. Sitting on top of the calcaneus, jutting up towards you, is the talus. That's the only bone that articulates with the leg from the foot. And now go forward, slide off the talus, and there's one more bone here that spans all 3 cuneiforms. This is the navicular. It's also known as the scaffolding, the same way it was in the hand. Okay, here's a look at the human knee. The anterior view is on the left, posterior is on the right. This gives people all sorts of problems, usually later on if they have osteoporosis or if they have RA, arthritis, or if they've just worn things out. Okay. Here's the patella, probably a little bit bigger than they're showing here. The patella is held in place by two structures. Below it, attached to the tibial tuberosity, is the patellar tendon. A tendon properly attaches muscle to bone. Patellar tendon, patella, and above it, the quadriceps tendon. The quadriceps tendon goes to the quadriceps muscles. The vastus lateralis, you're going to get these next. Vastus medialis, vastus intermedius, and rectus femoris. For those of you who might have your sheet out, the one with locations, I believe I have patellar ligament. Anybody?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Patellar ligament is much preferred because this is a ligament attaching bone to bone. Attaching bone to muscle is the authority of the tendon here. Okay. So I don't know what book that came from, but I'd like to open that one back up, white it out, and change it. Patellar ligament.
That's how
On
it'll be
either
like
side,
on the practicum.
on the practicum, if I have this at all, it's going to be patellar ligament. I'll mention it again tomorrow. Mention it again Wednesday too. Okay, if I haven't been able to change it. Sometimes it's hard to change these guys, but
So patella ligament attaches the patella to the femur.
no,
No. Okay.
no, to the tibial tuberosity.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have two strap-like pieces of connective tissue on either side here. Remember that the fibula is lateral, so this is the lateral collateral ligament. It's lateral because it's on the lateral side. It's collateral because there's going to be a medial collateral ligament working with it. And it's a ligament because it attaches bone, this time to bone. So you're using the ligament properly. This strap-like piece here is the medial collateral ligament. Medial collateral ligament. With the patella pushed out of the way, you can see the anterior cruciate or crossing ligament, which holds the lateral side closer to the medial side. On the back, you can see the other ligament that crosses, the posterior cruciate ligament. You may abbreviate these or expect them to be abbreviated on the test as ACL, anterior cruciate ligament, and PCL. You ever watch a football game and the announcer is an ex-football player? Every other word is ACL and PCL. That's about all they know. Now, we've got these held in place by two strap-like ligaments, the medial and the lateral. We've got them held crisscrosswise by the ACL and PCL. Now we're going to take this articular surface also, because it's a joint, but it's auricular because it's made up of cartilage. The auricular surface is here as well, here, and it sits down into these little saucers. They're not that little, they're quite firm. These are the menisci. The lateral meniscus here, because it's again on the lateral side, the fibula side. The lateral meniscus and the medial meniscus. Over here, the medial meniscus and the lateral meniscus, because it's on the fibular side. Now, if you bend the knee backwards, it's supposed to rock comfortably in those spots. And being a synovial joint with a synovial pouch, it's supposed to have some cushioning for most of your life anyway. These days, we tend to outlive that cushioning, however.
Charlie,
Yes.
the cartilage that sits in the medial meniscus, is there a particular name for that we should know?
It's hyaline cartilage. I don't know if there's any other particular name for it. I'm sure there is. The osteopath that I had a name for everything. I challenged him on his spelling, and he couldn't spell anything. He couldn't spell anything, but he knew how to do everything.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, questions that you have? The only other thing I want to do with you is just for a few minutes, get you looking at some x-rays. Like I said before, you're going to see x-rays in your job more than you're going to see compound fractures. So you should be able to look at an x-ray and not be confused by it. And it's not confusing, not really at all. The best x-ray technicians, of course, are specially trained, and they can tell when there's necrosis or something going on in it. So let me go back, unless you got a question. Okay, I'm going back to my website. See, it didn't open up, but that's good. This is just a website didn't open up, and you have had trouble with videos. You shouldn't look for this little teeny, expand it, okay, or link to an external site. Okay. If they don't have that, they have a blue bar, whatever they have. Just fish around, you'll find it. And so there it is. Okay. And under X-rays here, okay. And here are the tissue slides that I asked you to look at. Take another look at them if you get a chance tonight. I'll be going over them again tomorrow. Okay, this X-ray, we can take them in any order that they pop up. I just wanted to see if I can get it a little bit larger. Okay, this is a good one to start with. One, it's pretty clear. A lot of X-rays are not clear, and if you come across one of those, you know I'm not going to use it. But this one's on something we just did, and it shows you that you cannot depend upon your point of view being from the front or from the back, because in an X-ray you see right through everything. Okay, what do you think this is?
The pubic symphysis.
Thank you. Pubic symphysis is correct. Okay. Now, what's this here and this here? You're going to be sitting on one side or the other. Which side do you think you're going to sit on?
The ischium. Yeah.
Who didn't close up the milk carton? There's a family.
It's the ischial
Later for Raymond.
tuberosity.
Oh.
Okay, that's the ischial tuberosity back here. Now, it's useless for you to try to say that's towards me or that's away from me. You're seeing both at the same time. Here's an easy one, and we always ask this easy one. What's this? Yes, it's femur, but what part of the bone is this?
The head.
The head.
Right. And the neck. And here's the greater trochanter. And here is all you can see of lesser trochanter. It's not enough for me to use it as asking a question, but it's enough to get you thinking of what you're seeing here. This indentation is the acetabulum. The pelvic rim or pubic rim is this area right in here. And this is the sacroiliac joint. I didn't show you that yet. Sacroiliac joint. This is a spinous process of the lumbar vertebra. I wish this had a just forward, but we'll do this. Okay, here's a forearm. Can't tell much at all down here. Okay, but this round structure, no. Let's look at this. This one here. That bone is a dead giveaway. We're at the forearm. Which one?
The ulna.
It's the ulna. That one was the ulna. Here is the radius. The head barely peeking in, the neck, and the radial tuberosity. This I wouldn't dare ask you. It looks like a capitulum, but you're seeing right through the trochlea. The trochlea comes on the side of the ulna. The capitulum's on the other side. They're one after another. They just will camouflage each other. So that's not good. Okay, here's a wrist. Now, they usually take a picture with an x-ray because something is wrong. It's very rare that you get something that nothing is wrong about. Okay, so the hard part, and once you get past it, you're in business. What's this? This is a metacarpal. It's got to be 1 or 5.
One.
It's 1. Okay, metacarpal 1 attaches to the trapezium. Metacarpal 2 attaches to the trapezoid. Metacarpal 3 always to the east capitate. Metacarpal 4 and 5 to the hamate. Come back over this side. Here's the scaphoid or navicular. Here's the lunate. Here's the triangular. And underneath it, you can see the pisiform. What's that little bump?
Is it the pisiform?
No. Thank you, though.
Oh, I thought you were pointing above. Never mind.
Right here.
That's part of the ulna.
It is.
What is
That was going to be my next question. This is the styloid process of the ulna. How did we know it was, or she know it was the ulna? Because the thumbs is on the radial side. The radius is on the radial or lateral side. The ulna is all that's left for the other side.
the point that you were pointing to? Was that the olecranon?
No.
No.
No. The olecranon. Oh yes, on the ulna. Yeah.
On the ulna. Okay.
Okay. This is the shoulder. This is the head. Okay. Now, this is the head of the humerus. I can't see the greater tubercle or the lesser tubercle, and it's because of the orientation. So I have to skip that. Look for here. That's the clavicle. This one is that little bent finger, the coracoid process. Here is the glenoid cavity. Not good enough. Okay. You need to go through either this set of, this, and this one is fine, of x-rays, so that you get an appreciation for what's going to give you trouble and what's not. And if you look at the answers, and I didn't show you any answers, this one's not either. Here we go. We just did that one. Actually, we did a smaller portion of this one, but we did it. It's the same one. This one has show me a labeled version. Okay. If they happen to use different designations than I did, then please use the ones I did. I don't see any differences here, however. Okay, tomorrow, wanted to see what the lecture was, but it's okay. You're going to have a lot of time. We'll have a lot of time together to use the bones that are behind me and go through these things again. I can only use the bones from the bone box for the skull, for the largest things. It's next to impossible to show the small holes on the skull. So I would like you to pay special attention to going through the book to the smaller holes and markings on the skull. To do the skull, I need a second person here with the handheld camera to do it right. You're looking at something, I'm looking at it on the screen. It's backwards, and you just can't hold it well. But I can easily do the larger bones, okay, and I'll do all of those. Not just one set, 3 sets. We did 4, and we'll also go over the skull on Wednesday. Okay, questions? Okay, then I'll wait around in case somebody does have any questions. I did not yet send, in case you're looking for it, your number. I've got all the email addresses now, finally, and I will be sending you a number. Please keep it handy. That's for you to check your grade and stuff like that. Okay, so if you want to exit, fine. If you want to stay on Canvas, that's fine too. And you can go over our material. It's all there. Everything we are going to have on the exam on Thursday, we have already covered now.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Charlie, I have a question.
Yeah.
Charlie.
I noticed on the figure locations, you have true pelvis and false pelvis. Do we need to know that?
Ask me tomorrow because I've already let a couple of people escape here, okay?
Okay.
Can you remember to ask me that?
Yes.
I always teach it, okay, but I never ask it. So
Okay.
that answers your question right now. Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Charlie. I had a question regarding, I was one who emailed you about the link not working. I tried doing what you were demonstrating during class and it still doesn't work. It says that the YouTube video is private.
Okay. Anybody else having trouble with the link?
Nope.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Oh,
I mean, you have.
you can go through Zoom and look up the recordings there.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'll go ahead and try doing that then.
Well,
Thanks,
I want
Stephanie.
to do the other. Okay. So if you want to hang around for just a minute, because you have a question, please do. If you want to leave at any point, please do. But that was. What's your first name? Acquire. Where'd you
My
go?
first name, Jennifer.
Jennifer. It doesn't. There it goes. Okay, I see it. I'm going to do it right here. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, you were having trouble with 6, 8, and 610.
Yeah.
Okay, here's 6, 8. Okay. Firefox, I'm using Firefox. Can't open this page. Okay. Oh, I clicked this little button instead. And there it is. They're not moving because I got to play, you know, there. Now they're moving.
Yeah, I'm using Chrome. So I've
Okay.
tried doing that
Okay.
link thing that you demonstrated.
Yeah, Just hang on. You're still able to see my cursor?
Yeah.
Here's that same 6.8, or let's do 6.10, the other one down here recording. Okay, I get that. I got that before, but then I click this little thing up here. There it is. I don't understand why you're not getting it.
Yeah, I'll probably have to check my settings or something, or I'll just end up doing what Stephanie suggested, going
Okay.
through the Confer Zoom.
Let me know tomorrow, tonight or tomorrow, I mean, by email or in class, if you never get it working.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
thanks for the help.
Charlie,
Yeah,
you mentioned for the practicum that most of it is pictures. Are we looking at X-ray pictures or like little diagram pictures?
we're looking at photographs.
Thank you.
There are less than 10 x-rays, less than 10. We don't use a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will show you a test, a part of a test that was given, okay? But this was from another instructor, so it darn well don't want to put it to heart, but it'll show you the questions and I'll tell you, I'll comment, that's a good question, or this is how I would ask it or whatever. I'll do that tomorrow.
Thank you.
Charlie, just to be clear, I don't know if I misheard that, but are there a few X-rays on the practicum?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Just like we just did. Nothing more complicated than that.
Charlie, hi.
Hi.
But most of them is going to be illustrations, just like the one that we have in the book and in the handouts. I mean, the modules.
None of them are going to be illustrations.
Oh, okay.
They're
right.
going to be pictures.
Right. Thank you, Charlie.
They'll be pictures.
And Charlie, are these pictures they're gonna have like, do they not have arrows to like a certain part of the bone?
Yes, they do.
Okay, cool. Because I use what is it? I use Quizlet. I usually just type up like a skull anatomy Quizlet, and it will show like pictures of like the skull and then arrows pointing towards it, or it would have it highlighted like a certain section. And that's what I use. It's kind of helpful, but I just want to know what the practicum would kind of look like, just like with the arrows and stuff.
You'll know. You'll see it tomorrow. And I understand where you're coming from. Everybody gets antsy towards the first test, and then once it's over and they realize what I said is exactly what they got, they are calmed down for the next test.
And after the bones, are we going to be doing, I think it was like was it the tendons or the muscle?
Muscles.
Ah, nice. That I'm pretty familiar with. Not quite, but yeah, almost.
We'll see.
Mm. All right. Thank you, Charlie.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Charlie. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.